Hello, my name is Nizaya Meza, and the advocacy organization I will be focusing on is the Black Lives Matter movement in their efforts to dismantle the mass incarceration and reform the carceral state. Throughout the presentation, I'll be using the Black Panther Party as a comparative lens, going off of the documentary that we watched in class. My title is Protest of Policy, Black Lives Matter's Aim to End Mass Incarceration. So Black Lives Matter, of course, was founded in 2013 following the acquittal of George Zimmerman for the murder of Trayvon Martin. The reaction to this injustice was the creation of a Black-centered political movement building project called hashtag Black Lives Matter. BLM places a heavy emphasis on racial justice, police brutality, and reforming the carceral state. Some of the policy platforms include efforts to reform the cash bail system, or rather end it, and pretrial detention, as well as private prisons. These are all important factors, especially affecting African American communities, as we learned from the Paige Pyhowski and Sauce reading, where we learned that the cash bail system is a form of predation that can effectively punish poverty by keeping people who were not yet convicted in jails until they can have their trial. So yes. Similar to the Black Panther Party, the Black Lives Matter movement has faced surveillance and repression by both the federal and state governments. The FBI and Department of Homeland Security both monitored BLM protests to analyze whether protesters had ties to terrorists in 2020. And this can be viewed as echoes of the FBI's former counterintelligence program, also known as COINTELPRO, who had a goal of disrupting and destroying the Black Panther Party from the 1960s to 70s. And also, additionally, members of both the BLM movement and Black Panther Party had faced violence through militarized force. I think it's important to understand that although both movements face suppression, it's important to distinguish the level of suppression between the two movements. The Black Lives Matter movement is tolerated by our government to the point where certain institutions are able to embrace the movement and its goals. On the other hand, the Black Panther Party were labeled as terrorists, and members were regarded as a national threat that needed to be extinguished. The federal government's reasoning for its differing reactions towards BLM and the BPP is very important and something I touch on later in my presentation. So we have community uplift initiatives. Similar to the Black Panther Party's community-free breakfast programs, Black Lives Matter supports mutual aid efforts and local initiatives like their survival fund that grants financial relief to around 3,000 Black families in need. The BLM movement and BPP both understood well that poverty leads to crime and it has a strong connection, and they therefore implemented efforts to uplift their communities in ways that would prevent that. So it is also clear that they both understood that this connection to poverty and crime disproportionately affected their communities, which is why they implemented these initiatives specifically for their communities because of the systems that are already in place by our country that fail to aid them. Then we have our revolutionary versus reformist strategy. The differences between BLM and BPP are very significant and can be seen as the reason why the BLM movement has been able to thrive today. For example, the Black Panther Party's 10-point program called for the immediate release of all Black men held in federal, state, county, and city prison and jails. This is a radical demand that had no policy reinforcement behind it whatsoever. On the other hand, Black Lives Matter attempts to work within existing systems to reform the carceral state, like ending cash bail, police defunding, and sentencing changes. Overall, BLM strategy includes lobbying. It includes running specific candidates and influencing the Democratic Party, whereas the BPP had a revolutionary approach that attempted to dismantle the existing systems instead. The influence of framing and its implications. So the Black Panther Party obviously was focused on self-defense, socialism, and armed resistance. It uses revolutionary languages and aims to dismantle existing systems, as I said. Whereas the Black Lives Matter movement is using inclusive language and frames their agenda as fighting for civil rights within a democracy. This reformist language is language that shows that they're willing to work within the existing systems and they're not threatening anything. As a result, BLM is able to receive state tolerance, earning them political victories and strong social media presence, which is something that the Black Panther Party could not do. Overall, why I support the Black Lives Matter movement is the reformist strategy leads to some political success and state tolerance. For example, with the help of BLM-backed organizers, Illinois became the first state to completely ban cash bail with the Pretrial Fairness Act of 2023. Additionally, I admire the organization's ability to adapt and mobilize within existing systems while maintaining their message. And overall, we do have this paradox that I want to talk about. And it goes off of the idea that framing of racial justice movements determines the state's response. And if BLM's framing allows it to survive at the cost of deeper systemic critique, then that means movements must conform to systems and institutions that oppress them to avoid repression.